Olive Vav. It happened that more than 40 pairs of witnesses passed on the way to the Beis Din, and Rabbi Kiva detained them in Lod. Rabbi Gamil said to him the following message: If you detain from the public, you are placing a stumbling block in their path for the future. Our father and son who saw the new moon should go to the Beis Din so that they not that they can be paired together as witnesses, but so they can be one of them is disqualified, the second may be paired with another. Rabbi Shimon says a father and son and all relatives are eligible for the testimony about the new moon. Rabbi Yossi said it happened that Tobiah the physician saw the new moon in Yerushalayim. His son and his freed slave and the Kohanim accepted him and his son and disqualified his slave. But when they came before the Beis Din, they accepted him and his slave and disqualified the son. The following are ineligible as witnesses: a dice player, usurers, pigeon pliers, dealers in seventh-year produce, and slaves. This is the rule. Any testimony for which a woman is ineligible, they too are ineligible for it. Okay.
Okay. מי שראה es hachodesh ve'eno yachol lahalech. One who sees the new moon, right? But he's unable to walk. He's okay. Yeah. Molichin also ala chamor, then they can put him on a donkey. Afilu b'mita, or even on a stretcher. You can have a bunch of people carrying him on a stretcher. He's the only one who saw it, and the other people saw him. Okay, okay. And you know what? I'm going to even say, even if the other people saw it as well, and we just saw in the previous Mishnayos that you can have 100 people all coming and all being mutar to be mechalel Shabbos to come and give their eidos, right? Which means these people can carry this guy on a stretcher because he also saw it. Okay. Im-
Well, they're not saying, well, you guys saw it, but he also saw it. So I don't need you guys. I need to have,
Well, that's
the
exactly the argument between Rabban
right,
Gamliel and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi
right,
Akiva said, "Why do you need to go to Why do you need to go? He kept them in Lud. We've got enough witnesses." And they're
right.
saying,
Same argument, right?
and we said, Rabban Gamliel, okay. V'im tzodei lahem, and if there are people, if there are bandits who are in, if they're bandits who are lying in wait, or it's a dangerous road. Okay, look in the Adam Maklos, then they can take weapons in their hands. We've got sticks over here, but
Right.
you can take whatever weapons you need. V'im haisa derech rechoka, and if it's a far way to go, look in the Adam Zonos, then they can take food as well. Even though you're carrying on Shabbos out in the Rosh Hashanah, you take whatever you need to. Okay, Sha'al Mahalech Laila v'Yom Mechalelin Es HaShabbos, for if it's anything that's up to a day and a night
Mhm.
of travel, you're allowed to be Mechalel Shabbos to come in if you Eidos, but no more than that. Why? Because if you take longer than that, you could, first of all, your Eidos is only good because you saw the new moon and you want to proclaim that day as Rosh Chodesh. So if you take longer than that, then in any case, the next day is going to be Rosh Chodesh. So if you know that you're going to take longer than a day to get there, then you can't be Mechal Shabbos because there's no point.
So this is just approving the last time of this Mishnah. These are the appointed times of Hashem, and you declare it in the fixed time. You have to be there on time. You have to be Mekal Shabbos in order to do it. That's how important
So
it
that's
is.
the heter, that pasuk that you said over there, Shnei Va'ele Moadei Hashem Asher Tikru Osam B'Moadam. That is the heter of being Mechal Shabbos. That the pasuk over there is saying that no matter what, you have to declare the Rosh Chodesh in its time. For And by the way, what this is also saying is that your ADOS is only applicable if it comes out on the 29th day.
Mhm.
If Rosh Chodesh
Right.
comes out on the 29th day, but if it's a if it's a 30-day month, then there's no point sending witnesses because the 30th day is automatically Rosh Chodesh.
But that's how. So just showing over here how important that if you mess it up, you may mess up the whole rest of the calendar.
Hmm.
So it has to be exact. Right.
Correct, correct. Okay, Perik base. Im einan makirin oso. So what happens if they don't recognize the witness? The witness is some guy who's just turned up at Beis Din and nobody knows who he is. Meshalchin acher imo laha'ido. So uh, you got to send other character witnesses to come along with him
Mhm.
to say that this guy is trustworthy. Why? The whole thing of this is that we had the is this explicit over here? Oh yeah, yeah. Berishon hayom mekablin edus hachodesh mikol adam. Originally, we used to accept edus from anyone who comes along. Okay, misha kilkilu haminin. And the minim over here, minim is normally referring to the early Christians, but this is talking about the Sadducees specifically. And they had this thing where they didn't accept Torah Shebal Peh. So they had a pasuk Usfarti lachem imacharas Shabbos. Right, when it's talking about Tfiras Omer, you start counting from Macharas HaShabbos. Now, we know that that Shabbos that we're talking about over there is not Shabbos, it's Pesach, but it's called a Shabbos in this context because it's Shabbos, Shabbaton, whatever. Yom Tov has an aspect of Shabbos. So that's Torah Sheba'al Peh that tells us that we count Sfira from Motzei Pesach. Yom Tov Rishon. But the Tzdukim wanted it to come out literally on Shabbos, so they had to do this whole cheshbon for a few months beforehand to try and make sure that the that Rosh Chodesh Nisan was going to come out on a Shabbos. Uh, so they would try and send Adim to say, "Oh, we saw Rosh Chodesh on such and such a day," and they would try and get this done. So they have to start taking character witnesses to make sure that whoever is coming and giving this Adis is actually believable. Okay, so it's kinu shelo yehu mekablin ela min hamakirin. So we have to have somebody who has uh who has
Recognizable.
the nemanus. There's a certain nemanus.
So the
Okay.
Bethuthians, like it said, the Bethuthians, like the Sadducees, rejected the Torah Shalpeh. They
That's
just,
correct.
they
Yeah.
just completely whole different sect.
Which
Okay,
is why they insisted that it had to be on Shabbos.
right. Okay,
Okay, Barishana hayu masin masuos. So in order to communicate from Yerushalayim to the rest of the Jewish world and the diaspora, they used to light fires and basically give fire signals to say, hey, this means that Rosh Chodesh has been declared.
right,
And that kind of signal can travel pretty fast from hilltop to hilltop to hilltop to hilltop. You know, you can get that across to to Bavel in pretty short time. You know,
right.
it might take a couple of hours or whatever, but nonetheless, it's quite an efficient way of communicating back in ancient times. Okay. Mishikilkelu hakutzim, his kinushi yehu shluchin yotzin. Now, this time they're talking about the kutzim who had the same issue. They also rejected Torah Shebal Peh, and they started messing up the signals. Like say, okay, so we won't get the Eidos HaChodesh going, and we won't be able to mess them up in Yerushalayim, but we will be able to mess them up in the diaspora by sending out the fire signals early. So then they said, okay, we can't use fire signals anymore, and this is part of the reason why in Chutz La'aretz they now have to keep 2 days of Yom Tov because they had to actually send a shaliach based in who came with a letter signed and sealed from the Sanhedrin in Yerushalayim to prove that it was really him. But for him to get to Bavel was a matter of 2 weeks, of more than 2 weeks, and so by the time they get to the potential Yom Tov, they don't know which day to keep. So they know that Rosh Chodesh was either 29th or the 30th day. So that's why they keep 2 days from the suffix of which day it was.
So we have whom to blame then.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We can blame them. Blame the Jews.
Okay, I think we have one more, right? No,
No, that's it.
it was it. Yeah.
Two short ones at the beginning of this parak. We finished the one at the end of the last parak and two in this parak.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. All right. All right. We are on to.
Pizza.
Okay. Gimel Zion. One may not wet a knife on Yom Tov, but one may pass it over another. One may not say to a butcher, weigh a dinner's worth of meat, but he may slaughter and they may divide among themselves. A person may say to his fellow, you fill this utensil for me, but not by measure. Your Yehuda said, if it was a measuring utensil, he may not fill it. If it occurred with Rabbi Saul ben Batnit, that he would fill his measures before Yom Tov and give them to his clients on Yom Tov. Abba Shaul says, even on the Moed, he does so because of the clearness of the measures. But the comments say even on a weekday he does so because of the exactness of the measures. A person may go to a storekeeper with whom he is familiar and say to him, "Give me eggs and nuts by number, for it's customary for the household to count in his house." One who takes wine jars from place to place may not bring them in the basket or hamper, but he may take them on his shoulder or in front of him. So too, one who transports straw may not hang the hamper behind him, but he brings it in his hand. And one may begin on a straw pile, but not with wood in the muksa. So,
Yeah, Yoma.
Yoma. Go. We have Zion Dalit. He washed his hands and feet, undressed, and went down into the mikveh and immersed himself, and came up and dried himself. They brought with him white linen vestments. He dressed and washed his hands and feet. He entered the Holy of Holies to remove the ladle and shovel. He washed his hands and feet, undressed, went down, immersed himself, came up from the mikveh, and dried himself. They brought him golden vestments. He dressed, washed his hands and feet, and entered the Holy to burn the empty incense and light the lamps. Then he washed his hands and feet and undressed. They brought him his personal clothing, and he dressed. And then they accompanied him to his house, and he made a feast for his friends for having left the temple safely. The Kohen Gadol serves in 8 vestments, and the common Kohen in 4, in a tunic, pants, and hats, and a belt. In addition to these, the Kohen Gadol wore a breastplate, an ephod, and a cloak, and a golden plate. Now, wearing these 8 vestments, they are consulted for the decision of the Urim Tumim. They are not consulted except for a king, the court, or for someone whom the public needs. On Yom Kippur, eating, drinking, washing one's body, anointing one's body with oil, wearing shoes of cohabitation are prohibited. The king and the bride may wash their faces, and a new mother may put on shoes. These are the words of Rebbe Eliezer, but the comment prohibit this. One who eats the volume of a large date.
That's it.
That's it, right? Okay. We are on Erevin. Erevin, Gimel base. We may make an error with the Mai, but the first tithe whose truma has been taken, and the second tithe of consecrated produce that were redeemed, and the Kohanim with kala or with truma, but not with untithed produce, nor with first tithe whose truma has not been taken, nor with second tithe or consecrated produce that were not redeemed. If one senses Erev with a deaf mute, a mentally deranged person, or a minor, or with someone who does not accept Erev, the Erev is not valid. But if he instructed another to receive it from him, the Erev is valid. If he places it on a tree higher than 10 tefachim, his Erev is not valid. Below 10 tefachim, his Erev is valid. If he places it in a ditch even 100 cubits deep, his Erev is valid. If he put it atop a reed or atop a pole, so long as it is uprooted and is stuck in the ground, even if it is 100 cubits high, his Erev is valid. If he places it in a locker and lost the key, the Erev is valid. Reb Eliezer says if he does not know that the key is in its place, the Erev is not valid. If he rolled beyond the tuchum, or a heap fell on it, or burned it, and it was truma, which became contaminated, if it was still day, the Erev is valid. If the dark, the Erev is valid. If in doubt, Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda say, if they squat in between Reb Yossi and Reb Shimon, say a doubtful Erev is valid. Said Reb Yossi, who's Avitamos tested in the name of 5 stages, that a doubtful valid is double. What's this one? Still day. If it was in what do you call it? Like on Erev Shabbos before I can't think of the word now. It's in the middle. You're not sure whether it's the changes.
Banish Mashas.
Spanish Muslim, couldn't think of it. So what happens in that case? It says it's valid if it's invalid. If the dark, it's valid.
If there's a suffix, we said a suffix Erev is valid.
Suffix Erev, okay, all right, okay. Okay, Paya. We have at the beginning of a row, the sheep is opposite proves. If the sheep is that is held to bring into the town is forgotten, they agree that it is not sheikha. And these are the beginnings of rows. 2 who began from the middle of the row, this one facing north, this one facing south, and if forgot before them and behind them, that before them is shikha. Behind them is not shikha. If one began from the beginning of the row, they forgot before him and behind him, that before him is not shikha, and that behind him is shikha, because you will not go back applies to it. This is the general rule. Whatever is included in you shall not go back is shikha, and what is not included in you shall not go back is not shikha. 2 sheaves, shikha, but 3 are not shikha. 2 heaps of olives and carob, shikha, but 3 are not shikha. 2 flax stalks, shikha, but 3 are not shikha. 2 grains, parrot, but 3 are not parrot. 2 ears of corn, leket, but 3 are not leket. These are according to Beis Hillel, and regarding all of them, Beis Shammai says 3 for the poor and 4 for the owner.
Yeah.
And we are on to Caleb. Okay, now, Aleph test. Between the ulam and the altar is holier than it. In the Kohen, that in that Kohanim have blemishes or with untrimmed hair may not enter. The Hakel is holier than it, and that one whose hands and feet are unwashed may not enter there. The Holy of Holies is holier than that, in that no one may enter there except the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur at the time of the service. Rabbi Yoshi said, with regard to 5 matters, the area between the ulam and the altar is on a par with the Hakel. Those with blemishes or untrimmed hair, or those who have drunk wine or with unwashed hands and feet may not enter there, and they must remove themselves from the area between the ulam and the altar when the incense is burned. Okay. Wooden utensils, leather utensils, bone utensils, and glass utensils, their flatwares are tahor, but their hollowwares are tameh. If they break, they become tahor, and if they remade the broken utensils into new utensils, they are unacceptable to tumah from then on. Earthenware vessels and nesafet utensils are identical in the laws of tumah. They contract tumah and transmit tumah via the airspace. They contract tumah via a receptacle in their interior. They do not contract tumah via their exterior. Their breakage is their tahara. The smallest of the earthenware utensils in the bottoms of walls, which can rest without support, the measure for susceptibility to tumah is enough oil to anoint an infant. And up to a log. Utensils containing from a log up to a saw are measured with a quarter log. Utensils containing a saw are up to 2 saws and measured with a half log. Utensils containing from 2 saw up to 3 and up to 5 are measured with a log. These are the words of Rabbi Shael. Rabbi Akiva says, I do not assign them a measurement, rather small earthenware vessels in the bottoms of walls, or walls which can rest without support. The measure for contraction of tumor is enough oil to anoint an infant, and this applies up to 10 utensils the size of small pots. Utensils from the size of small pots up to loading barrels are measured with a quarter of a log. Utensils from the size of loading barrels up to mayim are measured with a half log. Utensils from the size of the barrels are large tasks are measured with a log. Zokanam Zakai says large cast and measures 2 lugam, kalilim fast, and small barrels are measured for the bottoms of the smallest amount, and they have no walls. And basabasra. Okay. Man may not open a bakery or dye shop under the storehouse of another, nor a cattle shed. In truth, in the case of a storehouse of wine, they permitted these except for a cattle shed. The store in a courtyard, one can block him by claiming, I cannot sleep due to the noise of those entering and leaving. One may make utensils and go out and sell them in the marketplace, but one cannot block him by claiming, I cannot sleep to the noise of the hammer, or the noise of the mill, or the noise of the children. One whose wall was near the wall of another may not place another wall near it unless he distances 4 cubits from it. And with regard to windows, he must leave 4 cubits above them, and below them, and opposite them. One may distance the ladder from 4 cubits from a dovecote, so that Martin shall not spring into it, and a wall 4 cubits from a gutter, so that it can stand with a ladder there. One may distance a dovecote 50 feet from a town, and 50 cubits from a town, and a man may not build a dovecote with his own property unless he owns 50 cubits of land in every direction. If Yehuda says an area of 4 court, the extent of a dove's flight, if he bought it, even if it is within an area of a quarter log, it rains, it's standing.
Okay, and we're done.
Good. Have a great day.
You too.
Enjoy the rain tomorrow.
So,
So, take care.
yes.
Bye.